Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to a brand new video. The Scrapbook.com gift guide for 2021 is out now, and the Simon Hurley Create stamping foam was included on the list. So in today's video, I thought I would share some of my favorite tips and tricks for using stamping foam. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so a little bit about the stamping foam. It comes in a pack of 4, which is really awesome, so you have lots of them to use in your card making and crafts. It's this really great squishy kind of impressible foam, and it's this light gray color, so you can see exactly what color of ink you're using as you're playing with it. Now, I like to attach this to an acrylic block to make it a little bit easier to hold on to and give pressure. We came up with this Simon Hurley Create acrylic block set, which is great for stamping, but it also fits the stamping foam perfectly. My favorite adhesive to attach this down with is a little bit of mint tape. I found it had just the perfect amount of tack. So I'm going to take 2 pieces of the mint tape, fold them onto each other like this, and attach it onto my stamping foam. Then we'll attach our acrylic block down like this, and this is really helpful in case if you struggle getting even pressure. Because it's that solid surface, it's going to press evenly all around the stamping foam to get a really even image. Alright, let's start off first with a stamp. Here I'm using the Festive Florals background stamp from Simon Hurley Create. We'll flip this over, but you can use rubber or clear stamps for this specific technique. Now to heat this up, I like to use the Ranger heated tool. I like this one because it's got a little bit more of a dispersed heat to it, so it'll evenly heat the surface all at once. I'm just going to move around here and heat it for about 10 to 15 seconds, continuously moving that heat tool. You don't want to keep it in one area because you don't want to melt the foam. You just want an even heat all the way across the image. And once that's ready, I'm going to go in and give pressure all the way around. And this is why that stamping block comes in handy, because it'll help give that even pressure. And there we have that really awesome image that we've turned into a stamp. Alright, now when it comes to inking this up, there's lots of ways to do it, and I'll share even more throughout the rest of the video. For this first one, I'm gonna go in with some of the Ranger detail blending tools. Mine are definitely dirty and well loved, but these come clean and they're double-sided blending tools that are really great for getting into details. So here I'm gonna go in with a little bit of slippery when wet ink to start, and I'm just going to color in exactly where I want the ink to go. Next, I'll bring in a little bit of Love Struck and fill in the area on the poinsettia. I absolutely love these little mini blenders because it's really easy to get into all of the little details on here and stay inside of the lines on your image. Sometimes I'll even go in with a little bit of a darker color to add some shading into here. So here I'm going in with just a little bit of Game Over, which is just going to add a little bit of depth and dimension and darker color to the center of these flowers. This definitely takes a little bit of time to go in and color all of these little areas in, but I look at it as kind of an equivalent, or even almost it takes me a lot less time than going in to color things with markers. So that's why I love this technique, because in all relative comparison, it's pretty easy and quick to do. And last but not least, I'll go into these pine cones and color those in with a little bit of gur. If I want to, I can just leave this as is, but I like to go in, and what makes the stamping foam so special is you have that solid background too. So you're able to color that in super easily and evenly. And so in this case, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Breakup Blue, which is this really nice light blue color, and just go in with one of my detail blending tools again and color the whole background in. Now once again, you could leave it like this, but I like to make mine have a little bit more of a watercolor look and be a little bit more intense. So I'm gonna take my stamping foam here with all inked up. I'm gonna take my spray bottle with just water in it from a pretty far distance, and I'm just going to spray that about 3 or 4 times with a really fine mist. You guys can see when I hold it up close, you can see really tiny little droplets of water, but nothing huge, no big globs of water. That's really important to make sure to keep all the detail in there. And then we can go in right onto our stark white cardstock and give some good pressure to evenly transfer down that background. And when we lift that off, you get that really beautiful colored in image. I love how that looks so much. Just such an awesome and stunning colored in background. Now there's still a bit of excess ink on there. So I'm gonna go in again, giving it some good pressure back and forth. And there you get a beautiful secondary image, and depending on how much ink you had on the surface, it'll give more or less of a impression. Now the really cool part about this is the Festive Florals background stamp would usually give black lines that you have to color in, or you could stamp these in color, right? But it gives these lines. The reason why you'd want to use the stamping foam on it is because it gives that reverse impression. So instead of it being the lined image that you're stamping, you're actually stamping the solid image instead of the lines, leaving all the lines white. So some people ask why you would even want to stamp a stamp. That is why it gives you the reverse image. Now, depending on what ink you're using will depend on how you clean this off. When I use my Simon Hurley Create inks, they're reactive with water and they're super easy to clean. So I just spray it with a little bit of water and I'm able to wipe it down perfectly clean after I'm done. Now the stamping foam is reusable and all I need to do so is just start reheating it with my Ranger heated tool or whatever heat tool you're using. Just kind of move it along on the surface. And look, you'll already see it's starting to quickly go back to a flat stamping foam, and then you're ready to use it on whatever next project you want. Now there are so many things you could use stamping foam on, but next I'm going to share how to use it with dies. This is one of Scrapbook.com's beautiful Slimline dies, and I'm going to take my stamping foam. Here I'm going to heat it up again for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then we'll bring it over and really quickly transfer it down on top of our die there. So there is that impression that we were able to get from our die. And the really awesome part about this too is this was originally a slimline die, but now that we're using our A2 size stamping foam, it pares it down to fit perfectly on an A2 size card, making it even that much more versatile. All right, now let's ink this stamping foam up. Now this time I'm going to go directly to the surface with my ink pads. I'm starting off with a little bit of Psych, and whenever I ink this up, instead of doing the normal stamping motion where you go up and down like this, that's going to give me lines and kind of impressions that I don't really want. I find with stamping foam, the best way to ink it up is just with a light pressure and going in kind of a swirling motion like that, and that's going to give you lots of color and really great even coverage all over your stamping foam. So then next I'm going to go in with a little bit of Tropical Tango, following the exact same steps. And you don't need to press hard either. You don't want it to go in all those different grooves. I just kind of stay on the surface with a light pressure and move it back and forth. Now one thing you might want to do is if you're transferring from a really dark color to a lighter color, one thing that can be helpful is using blending tools and going in between to kind of blend those colors together a lot easier. Then again, we'll go in with a little bit of Clear Skies as our next color. Then we'll bring in a little bit of No Diving here, which is a really bright and vibrant blue. And you know what? Here, in between these two, I'll go in and blend those out. And finally at the bottom, we'll bring in just a little bit of Midnight Snack. I'll mist it down a few times with a really light and fine mist. And then I'll go in, line it up on our cardstock, and stamp it down with some good and even pressure. And when we lift that off, you can see that really beautiful background we were able to get with our die. You would never be able to get this with a die usually because it's just meant for cutting out your cardstock. But here we've completely reversed it and created a really beautiful stamped image. It's just like magic every single time. It surprises me just how easy it is to make it go flat and reuse it over and over. Now one of the awesome parts about stamping foam is you're not limited to just your craft room. You can use it on a variety of different household items as well. So I find myself going around my house and looking for whatever texture I can. And for the holidays, I thought it was the perfect time to pull out a sweater and use that amazing texture on our stamping foam. I've laid out our sweater pattern here, and what we're going to do is go in and start heating up our stamping foam. Make sure to keep the heat away from whatever clothing garment you're using as well. You don't want that to kind of be heating your piece of clothing and maybe melting that either. And then quickly, I'm going to just press it right into whatever texture we have. Here it happens to be that beautiful knit pattern, and it creates that really awesome texture onto your stamping foam. Isn't that just so stunning? Do this one at your own risk. Definitely don't use anything super expensive. I've never had anything go wrong, but I don't want you guys to accidentally ruin a really expensive piece of clothing. All right, now for this one, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Love Struck all over the surface of this pattern. I just love that. This is gonna be so great for these kind of cozy Christmas cards as a really beautiful kind of cable knit background. And then on the edges here, I wanna add a little bit of shading. So I'll go in with a little bit of Game Over all around the edge. And again, using that kind of swiping technique to add the color down in an even fashion. This time I'm gonna go in without spraying anything down. So I'm going to go onto our piece of cardstock and give some good and even pressure to make sure everything transfers on the surface. And there we have that really beautiful stamping. Again, you don't need water to transfer. Sometimes I just like it to give a good and even and vibrant color, but you can see how well this one transferred without it. And this one looks like it's got some extra ink on there, so I'll actually just spray it down a little bit to get a second transfer. Go in, stamp that down, and there, wow. Yeah, we got a really beautiful second transfer from it, and I actually like where we sprayed it too. It gives that little bit of watercolor texture. So you guys can see that kind of difference in whether you spray it or whether you don't, and that different amount of detail that it provides then. These projects just scratch the surface of all of the amazing things you can do with Simon Hurley Create Stamping Foam. I hope you guys have tons of fun when you get into your craft room playing around with all of the amazing textures you can find and different things and stamps you're able to create with it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and click that subscribe button down below to Scrapbook.com so you never miss crafting videos like this one. Alright guys, I hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you soon. Bye!